Hello. Fuck. This is scary. I am Alara. If you don't know me already, I haven't been on here in a while. But in the last year, I have uprooted my life. And I've separated from my husband. I sold the house we had together, or got bought out. Put a pause on my business, waiting and looking at how that might evolve. And I got a campervan. I finished converting it and I traveled solo across Europe from the UK to Turkey, which is where my family live. And for the last month, I have been dancing for 6 hours a day in India. And the whole process has felt incredible, overwhelming, scary at times. There's been some really funny stuff that have happened, really surreal stuff, thought-provoking stuff, and some amazing learning. So I feel like the whole time it has felt like a pilgrimage. And I have this huge yearning inside of me to somehow reflect on this entire experience and share it. But I have a tendency of trying to share everything at once. So with such a big trip and experience with so many details, I think it wouldn't be doing the trip justice. It would be pretty overwhelming and actually pretty vanilla. So after 5 days of feeling lost and overwhelmed and overstimulated after coming back from India, I've decided I'm going to take a different approach. So I'm going to be doing weekly Fireside story time lives on here. I would love for you to come along for the journey. And the idea is each week I'm going to be sharing one snippet of a story. So this week's story is called The Indian Bike Story. So I had never been to India before until last month. And one of the reasons for that was because I perceive India to be this incredibly overwhelming space. Like the chaos, the idea of the chaos scares me. And the messiness and sort of I associate it with this like messy, chaotic, like space. And I think a lot of people also have that perception. And it scares people, including me, because it relies on you finding an inner sense of sort of calm and certainty and stability, and also really relies on you finding a sense of flow as well. So anyway, the reason I went to India was because there is this dance, month-long dance retreat that I heard about from my dance teacher, and I was like, that sounds so freaking cool. It's like dancing has been something that it's been a huge part of my life for a long time. So it was my gift to myself, and also a new avenue of exploring, okay, what if I was in my body for an entire month, because my work is super in the head, but more on that at another time. So I arrive into India, and after navigating, transitioning across multiple airports in crazy traffic, like in this tuk-tuk like thing, and then being picked up at the airport by my taxi, but the back seats were like reclined and they just wouldn't go straight. So I ended up getting to my accommodation like reclined on the back seat, which I wasn't moaning about, to be honest, because I was super tired. It was kind of a little bit uncomfortable on the neck, though, I'm going to say. I got to my accommodation, And we had the welcome ceremony. It was amazing, meeting everyone. And so we had the first evening where we were going out for dinner. And I didn't realize, but the place we were staying was actually like 10-minute scooter ride away from where all of the food is and like where the town is. So actually, this place, you need a scooter to get around. And not only do I not have a scooter license, and my driving license doesn't say that I can ride scooters, I think it says I can drive like a quad bike, and I think 50cc max. But I also don't know how to ride a scooter. So I resigned to the fact that I'm going to be a passenger on someone's scooter. Luckily, there is plenty of people who have a scooter and I can be a passenger on. So we go out on this evening adventure with a girl called Aylin, who is also half Turkish, actually half Finnish, and also a Belgian woman named Juvetta. And I'm on the back of Aylin's scooter, and I feel like, whoa, this feels so freeing. You know, you're just like warm air running through your hair, and like the roads are dirt roads. In India, there's like, I mean, in the place I was staying, I was in Goa, which I've heard a lot that it's not really real India. You can hear the call to prayer. I'm in Turkey at the moment, back with my family. Hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, dirt roads, like very narrow, and bikes coming and going, like nobody checks their mirrors, and nobody really cares you're there unless you make a sound. So there is beeping going on left, right, and center. If you see a dog, you beep. If you see a bike coming, you beep. If you're about to overtake a bike, you beep. If you're about to be overtaken, you beep. If you're about to be overtaken but you think they haven't really seen you, you beep. If there's a car coming, you beep. So there is, everyone beeps for everything. So Eileen had already had a few run-ins with trouble because she didn't beep, so she was beeping at absolutely everything. So there's like noise going on left, right, and center. And because the streets are so narrow, there's like trees, like the jungle is literally growing down over the road, which I found incredibly cool. But also it felt a little bit hit and miss, you know, like it felt very much like, no, there's no rules here, we're just going by the seat of our pants. And my first encounter with bikes in India is when Yuvetta's bike suddenly lost control and went straight into Eileen's bike sideways, which at the intersection point happened to be my leg, my ankle. So my first day on a bike in India, I wasn't even driving. My ankle got squished by this bike, and I was like, shit. The adrenaline was high, so I thought, like, this is worse than it is. And I was a little bit worried, like, and poor Yvette, like, she was so distraught. She was like, she's such a responsible, like, she's like the mother type normally. And she was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, I think I'm okay. And the people pleaser in me was like, not, like, what am I going to say? I'm not okay. I mean, yeah, I guess I could say that, but people pleaser in me did not say that. If you bear with me through these few weeks, I'm going to figure out how I can best tell stories, because storytelling is an art in and of itself. And I have a real tendency to run, to like really speed up the whole process. So anyway, the ankle ended up being fine. And I was like, I'm at the start of a dance program. Like, I really, really do not want to start it with a swollen ankle. But it ended up being mind over matter, actually, and it got swollen a little bit, but it didn't go purple or anything. So I was very grateful for my ankle holding up. But from that point onwards, I decided, yeah, maybe I'm not gonna hire a scooter here, because even being a passenger, like, there's chaos ensuing from someone that I know. And, you know, at the opening ceremony, they were like, yeah, be careful with the scooters, because a couple of girls from the month before, they ended up needing to get stitches because they fell off their bike, and it's becoming a tradition at Kalakeli, which is the dance program that I was doing. So I was like, yeah, no, okay, no, absolutely not. Sorry, it's getting a little bit dark here. It's evening time. This is why. Oh, let me see if I can. Yeah, lighting. Yeah. So, I managed a couple of weeks without a bike, just being a passenger on someone else's bike. It was amazing. And one thing about not having a bike, it means you really have to go with the flow. Like, you can't really plan where you're going. You just go where other people are going, which in and of itself was such a learning curve. But after week 2, I was there for 4 weeks, but after week 2, I'd been there long enough to sort of know who I want to hang out with a little bit more, which plans I would rather go to, which places I would rather go to make the most of my experience. Like, the sort of going with the flow element started to wean down a little bit. So week 2, I decided it would be really nice to have my own bike. And I also started to run into some tooth trouble, which I'll go into in another story, but I had to go to this dentist and back multiple times. So I asked a friend of mine, Spanish friend of mine, who was also at the course, and I said, can you teach me to ride a bike? And let's just overlook the fact that I'm not technically meant to be riding it, because I think they don't really care. So she taught me to ride a bike, but we were going to dinner. So my bike lesson was, can you ride it? Yep. Can you get your balance? Yep. Okay. Then jump on the back. So my friend was on the back, like, within 10 seconds of me learning to ride this scooter. So we went to dinner, and I was like, whoa, a little wobbly, but, getting there. And I was pretty proud of myself. I was like, maybe this is, I'm kind of getting this. And on the way back, this dog, what was it? It was one of these, like, scary dogs that people are scared of. Not a bulldog, but similar. One of those ones. And it had a collar on, so it was obviously belonged to someone, but it just wouldn't get off of the bike. Every time we started to go, it would, like, run up and jump onto the bike, and it was so funny. It just would not move. So after about, like, 10 minutes of trying to, like, pull this dog off, but also knowing that it's a dangerous breed, so not wanting to, like, push it too much, I ended up, Lau and I ended up, Lau was a Spanish friend, saying, okay, well, we'll just take it where we go, and it knows, it must know around here, so it can find its way back if it really needs to. And so we just started driving with this dog between my legs, Lau on the back, and I'm driving at night, and I was like, Lau, the first time I'm riding a bike, like, actually in the driver's seat, I'm doing it with a passenger and a dog. I don't know if that's quite the typical way of learning to ride a bike. And then, like, 2 minutes later, we're like, and we're stealing a dog. And I was just like, we're having quite a snapshot of a moment here. And I was like, she was like, yeah, I didn't really think that we were stealing a dog, but we are stealing a dog. And we arrive at the place, and all of the local dogs do not take to this new dog, and they start barking, and dog fights start up, and we're like, what have we done? Do we just turn a blind eye and do nothing? But actually our friends were like, you really need to take this dog back. So we were like, okay, I guess we'll take the dog back and try to find someone to hold it. So then we make the journey back to the restaurant to where we found the dog, and my Spanish friend starts to, with her, like, slightly broken English, she starts asking local people, saying, we don't want dog. Can you take dog? And everyone was like, no. And I said, Lau, maybe we need to rephrase exactly what we're saying. So I found some, like, foreigner-looking people, and I said, look, this dog keeps on jumping on the bike whenever we try to move. Are you able to just hold it while we leave it, and you can just let it go? And they were like, does it bite? We were like, no, it's very friendly. It was very friendly. It was a scary breed, but it was actually really friendly. It was a really cutest dog. So finally we managed to drive off, and this dog was, like, being held, and it didn't, like, they let go once we were far off in the distance. But after this experience, I decided, you know what? I'm going to get a bike. So I got a bike. And I had this bike for about a week and a half before I accidentally left the keys in the ignition one day and it ran out of battery and it just would not kickstart. So I ended up getting a second bike delivered. Now, something about Indian bikes, you are lucky if the fuel gauge and the speedometer and the signals and the mirrors work. Luckily, the first bike I got had all of those things working, and I was like, yes, hit the jackpot, because my friend's bikes, they were like, the wing mirrors were like sort of dangling off. The speedometer wasn't working. You don't know what the fuel gauge is, so you run out of fuel super easily, and you're just like left by the side of the road. And the way you get fuel is like people just sell them in water bottles at like little corner shops and stuff. So you need to walk to the next, corner shop or like hitchhike to the next corner shop, which is what happened to me with this new bike that I got. After my beautiful shiny bike that unfortunately ran out of battery and never started again, I ended up with a crappy bike. And what happened with this crappy bike was a little climax, I guess, of this story. Everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in one go, basically. So I was staying, because this was the time I was using this bike was literally the last 2 days I was in India before I fly back. And the last 2 days, I needed to find my own accommodation separate from where I'd done the dance retreat, because the dance retreat was over by this point. And so I was staying in this little shack. Like, a friend had a shack that they were tasked with cat sitting the cat of, and she said, look, there's no one staying there. As long as you feed the cat, you can stay there. I was like, cool, that's no problem. First night, I feed the cat, no problem, but the food runs out. So I tell them the food has run out, and the guy's like, yeah, no, I'll get some more food. Second day comes round, the food never shows up. So I'm like, that's fine. He'll bring it by the evening, because the cat needs to be fed in the evening. So I'm not stressing. Meanwhile, I'm having a nice day, hang out with some friends, go climb a tree, and I'm also go for a massage. And when I go for this massage, I realize that I have very little cash left. I spend I finish my cash at this massage, knowing that I'm going to just take the bike, go get some cash. Here's what happens. I take the bike and I drive back to my accommodation to go feed the cat. Once I get to the accommodation, my shack, my little tiny, tiny shack that looks like an unbuilt, like, concrete little thing with plastic, a plastic roof and creepy crawlies could very easily get in through every crevice of the house. The bike dies. Like, luckily, it's as I pull up to the shack. But I'm like, ooh, I know that I was a little bit low on fuel. Maybe I've run out of fuel. So now I'm like, okay, let me just feed the cat and then I'll worry about the fuel. I go in the house, the cat food still hasn't been delivered, and the person who was meant to deliver it, the friend who was meant to deliver it, is not picking up. So I'm like, great, okay, so now I need cat food, I need fuel, but I need cash to do that, and I need to get to a cash point with the bike. So it was a catch-22. I was like, I don't have a working bike, and I don't have cash to get my bike working and to get cat food. So I call up some friends and I say, could you bring some fuel for me, please? And very beautifully, they bring some fuel over. And I'm like, thanks, bye. So I'm like, I've got the fuel, can go get the cash. Once I get the cash, I can get the cat food. Once I get the cat food, I can feed the cat. Great, mission accomplished. Get the fuel, put it in the bike. Bike doesn't work still. I was like, oh, this freaking cat still needs feeding, and I thought the bike's problem was just the fuel. So luckily there's a shop within walking distance that sells cat food but not fuel. So I go to the shop, and I don't know why I went to the shop, because I had no cash actually, but I was just like, let me just check if they have cat food, like maybe I can borrow some, like pay it afterwards, I don't know. Get there. Obviously, I wondered if they could take card. Actually, that was what I was wondering. But they didn't take card, and I was like, okay, no working bike. I have fuel, but the bike still doesn't work. Cat food is still not sorted. This poor cat is like meowing at me. So I, again, very luckily, bump into a friend. Is like, the place we were at is like everyone is sort of in a smallish area, so you bump into people quite easily. So he was motorbiking, and I was like, stop. And I said, can I please borrow some money to buy? And I went into this like really long story of why I needed this money to buy cat food because I'd run out of fuel and the bike wasn't working, like the story that I'm telling you now. And he was like, just say you need some money to buy cat food. It's fine. It was like 10 rupees. It was like a little pouch. So he bought this cat food for me. I was so grateful. We walked back to the place and I was like, can you also look at the bike, please? And he looked at the bike and bloody, it works. It started working when he did it. And he was like, yeah, when it runs out of fuel, like when it is dry, when you first put fuel in, it won't work. It needs a few minutes to go through the system. I was like, right, okay. So finally I was able to feed the cat. By this point, the cat had given up on me and just disappeared off. So I put food in the cat thing, but it didn't eat it until I don't know, probably the next day. And my bike started working, and finally at about 8:30 p.m. at night, I was getting up at 6 a.m. So I was trying to get sorted and packed and have dinner, all in good time, but actually none of that happened. At 8:30 p.m. at night, I finally went into town to get some cash, have some dinner, and then pack afterwards. It ended up being a really, really late night, but I managed to get it all sorted in the end. So that is my bike story in India. I think what I've really learned about bikes in India is you have to go with the flow. It is your feet in India. You don't have feet. You have bikes. You have scooters. And yeah, I was grateful that I didn't get stopped by police. But I think, there was a lot of other people who didn't have the official driving license for scooters as well. So yes, that is my bike story. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far, and I will see you in next week's live with another story, another fireside story. Please let me know if you have had any experience with bike adventures in India or anywhere similar. I feel like bike adventures is are quite common, so I'm really interested if you have something similar. Yeah, put in the comments below. Have an amazing evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are, and thank you for staying this far with me.